Morning. Part of flying in Fairbanks, Alaska is I get to run over to the airplane. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. We need to make sure that the heater is on. I'm going to check the Rife that we installed so that it can warm up. About 4 or 5 hours prior is what you need at these temps. It's like 10 or 11 below zero today. And then Alex and I are going to go fly at 10 o'clock this morning. So I think I'm going to go home and take a nap. You guys keep your face jacket on. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, so ground looping, right? So Damien does a really good job actually demonstrating a ground loop in his Stearman.
Yep.
So
I thought that was pretty cool.
right, and he does a nice job. He takes the model, right, and uses the sticks, and he gives the textbook, and then he shows, and then he actually goes in the airplane and does it. We'll try it really on pavement. Usually this is like a summertime thing, and gravel stuff where it's a little more forgiving. But ground looping is a serious maneuver. Done at low airspeeds and the low airspeed regime, it can be benign, but finding that threshold is, could cost your airplane, and it could get pretty violent. But you'll start going but hang in there. So ground looping. Do you have any questions on that?
I don't think so. It's the basics of it are it's like it gets to
explain that.
So if you're staying within your tracks of those front wheels, then that tail wheel stays inside that. Then in theory you should not be in a ground loop scenario. Once you get outside that, or momentum carries you, you are most likely, depending on the aircraft, right, you're going to hit a point where there's no return. You can't even recover from it. So it's just going to keep going around because the center of gravity is behind those wheels now, and that force is going this direction. So as the force is going this direction and it pulls out here, it wants to come around to the front of the airplane.
Exactly. I want to make sure, you said tail wheel stays between that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the center of gravity.
Okay, yeah.
If you want to maintain that ground track, you got to keep that center of gravity
within
the ground track of the main wheels.
Okay.
Yep. You want to stay ahead of the tail wheel, this aircraft, at all times. That's the minute you fall behind and you're late getting input in, that's when things get ugly. So, did you remember Damien used the ruler trick?
Yeah, he was holding a stick and then showing how you keep it in here. But it's to me it was like on the helicopter when they first learned to fly it. They're moving it all over the place. And honestly, if you're moving more than a dime or something or a nickel on that cyclic, you're wasting your time.
Oh, the helicopter stuff.
Yeah, it's very tight.
Sure. So you get it. So just transfer your hands.
Yeah, to the feet.
Into your feet, right? So the moment you treat it like a Piper or a Cessna tricycle gear product,
hosed.
That's when I'm gonna be like, all right, Nick, you gotta keep them feet moving.
Okay.
Right. So we're gonna do a couple exercises. That's gonna roll into my next talking point. Is exercises. I like to do 3 exercises. We're gonna hopefully do today, and that is the ground handling stuff, which we're gonna do a series of figure 8 maneuvers on the taxiway, which we're gonna taxi over. Probably if we can't get good traction on the snowpack here on the east ramp, we'll go over to the west ramp where they do keep it plowed, and we'll go off somewhere we don't bother people. And so a series of figure 8s, and what that is, it's a series of left turns and right turns, and it's just consecutive, right? So left turn and then a right turn, left turn, right turn, but it's a series of a figure 8. With that being said, I move into the safety brief stuff. So you and I have never flown with each other.
Mm-hmm.
3 things I like to cover is standard exchange of controls. You're going to be flying an airplane. If I need to teach something, or if I need to take it over, or vice versa, if you want to take it, if you see something unsafe and you want the controls, we're going to use the standard exchange controls method, right? That's a 3-step process where you initiate it. I have the aircraft. I'm acknowledge you have the airplanes. I'll start the controls, and usually you give a little, acknowledgement that you have the controls, and then you reassure that
that's new to me. But
you have the airplane.
Okay.
Everyone's different. You can do it or not. You're going to see me doing it.
Okay.
Because if your hands on that controls, you're like, you have the controls because you're just afraid, you're just tensed up, and I can't move that stick. I'm like, Nick, stick. Oh, thanks.
I don't think that'll be an issue, but you never know.
No. So I brief it.
Yeah.
Standard exchange controls. We're not going to have any simulated engine failures today. We're not going to have any simulated emergencies. If an emergency arises, I'll take the airplane.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I'm not going to surprise an engine failure on you, and that was it.
So first thing I want to talk about show is just the figure 8, right? So coming to the left, I push the left rudder in, and see this is just rudder, Nick. This is just rudder, no brake.
Okay.
This is brake right here. All right. See how much tighter?
Much tighter.
See how much tighter it can turn with the brake?
Yep.
Okay. That's going to the left. Now coming to the right,
We have one two-way light, or plenty of distance, but it's over there.
okay. So I'm going to have you do that here in a second. We're going to just do some turns with rudder and then with brake. But match your turning kind of with power, right? You don't need to come in full power, but also don't stop, like don't do this, you know?
Okay.
You should be just able to just do nice low power applications.
Okay.
And that's just, hear the engine sound. That's about a good turn. That's all I need. I doesn't need to go up to 2,000 RPMs.
Okay.
Alright, so figure 8, let's say you're starting the maneuver here, sticks back in your lap, I'm coming to the right, a little right brake, sticks coming forward, right rudder, a little bit of power.
It's amazing how it turns.
Right? Everything is behind you, so I'm leading the turn out, stick comes back in your lap, I'm going to come back on the power, a little bit of brake, rudder, and just a little bit of power to get it around the turn, stick forward. Alright. That look pretty good? Pretty good feeling about that? Yep. Alright, you're the plane.
Have all the flight controls.
You have the controls.
Back, I'm on the brakes.
Let's do some turns like I did earlier. Let's do a turn with
Ground
rudder.
210 on Charlie,
with
like
brake.
approval on Control Charlie. Unit 210, Fairbanks ground, approved on Control Charlie. 210, approved, Control Charlie.
Stick up.
Yeah, if it's not really turn around all that much, add a little bit more power. And if it ever gets out of control, just pull the power back. Yeah, stick forward to lighten the tail on the turn.
Felt like you had it tighter.
Well, yours are still pretty tight. So, pull the power back a little bit. Yeah. A little bit more brake on it. Put some brake.
I took all the power out.
Kind of pulse on that right brake.
Little pulse.
Pulse on it, kind of.
So 3 points allows us to bring in less energy into a landing. So if we can touch down slower, let's say 10 knots faster, slower, that's going to minimize our time that we have for ground looping.
Makes
For
sense.
slowing down. So
Yep.
if you can come in a 3 point and be already stabilized, tails down, keep it stuck and pinned, you can use the brakes, a little back stick, and you can keep the aircraft under control a lot better. Because you're not going through that transition zone where that CG is moving. That's where it gets people.
Okay.
So that's about it.
Crossing center lines, report west center line. Full report, west center line, welcome
You have all flight controls.
Okay, you have the controls.
You have all flight controls.
0 under X-ray, only 20 left, cleared for the option.
Would you mind taking those gloves down?
20 left, cleared for the option, 09 X-ray.
Alright, you ready?
Yep.
Alright, stick's coming back to that spot we talked about. Here we go. Nice smooth power application. I'm on the pedals, keeping it runway center line.
Cox 733, kilo, Victor, next tower, runner.
Off it comes. I'm going to pitch the nose forward. Got to get my airspeed pulled up.
Cox 733, kilo, Victor, runway 20 left, wind 20.
Alright, I'm going to take the controls.
Okay, you have all flight controls.
Alright, I have the controls. Just because we turned this in,
Continue upwind, I'll call your crosswind turn.
I'm just going to get us down here a little bit.
Upwind, 09 or X-ray.
Kind of fun.
Yeah, right, so because we don't have flaps, we're a little high.
A lot high. You can say it. It's okay.
If he turned this in, I'm sure he's got traffic behind us that wants to do stuff, but we'll get it salvaged here. Alright, so shooting about 70 miles an hour in the pattern, about 1,500 RPMs or so. Seems to work out quite nicely. VF1 will be able to check right gas rates, every gauge, mixture. Primers, let it lock. See, that's good. Okay.
Zero 9 X-ray, make a left traffic, I'll call your base. Left traffic, 0 9 X-ray. Helicopter 1-3 X-ray, traffic 2 miles southeast of the
There we go. That was about. That's better.
Okay, be looking for the...
Okay, so other than that, man, we're just going to be flying it down with the numbers as soon as we cross the threshold. Landings assured.
Back to the helicopter.
I'm going to slowly start bringing the nose to the horizon. Bring that retard the power to idle. Now you're good. Just stretch, just get normal.
Crossing the river.
Right? I'm coming in here. Coming into my flare. I'm bringing the nose right to the horizon. Power's coming to idle.
20 left.
Just bringing the nose up. Bringing the nose up. Nose up. Come on, the pedals, right? Wow, that's a lot of pedal movement. Okay. Moving back to the runway center line. Bring out, come on the brakes, sticks back in my lap. 80 clear for the option? Yeah, clear for the option.
X-ray is prepared for takeoff, ski 20.
Okay.
Come again, 68
It is your input. I have flight controls. Lead part takeoff. Clear left, right, forward. Hey, you ready? Ready.
X-ray holds short, ski 20. Icener 2167, right up Bravo, taxi to park, monitor ground. Taxi to park, monitor ground, has 2167.
Down the pedals, keeping it runway center line aligned.
3893, good with number 12.
We're drifting to the right, come to the left.
On the back 3993, Julie Whiskey, Fairbanks Tower, runway 20 right, winds 100 at 7, clear for
So,
takeoff.
do you see how we drifted to the right side of the runway? I did. So, we didn't have enough left pedal to keep us aligned with the center line. So, this would just drift it off the center line. Okay.
Fire 2 is scale, midfield, to their left. Fire 2 is scale, runway 20 left, clear to land, traffic follows over the numbers. Clear to land, number 2, red fire, 2 is scale.
There's that skip I told you about. Yeah, I didn't plan on demoing it, but you're welcome. Do I get a discount now? Alright, let's focus on the go-around. Yeah, so why did that happen? Too much sync rate is what I think. Nope. Nope. Nope, because what touched first? The tail? Nope, the mains. The mains? The mains touched, the tail touched, and you skipped off. Okay. And you got into your purpose. So, your flare was perfect, your power reduction was perfect. You just didn't keep pulling back. Okay. Your sight picture is very low. Okay.
20 left, clear for the option, 09.
70 miles an hour, looking good, you're on. Got a good glide path. Looking good. A little left. Oh, excuse me, a little right. Just keep it coordinated, nice. Just keep the nose aligned on the runway. There's no crosswind. Stick back in your lap, on the pedals, on the pedal. Little jabs, short jabs, short jabs. Back to left, bring us back to left. When you're able, have it under control, find the brakes. Okay. Did it. Looking good, Nick. back in your lap. Nope, we'll come to a stop. Come to a stop.
I'm having trouble working the brakes at the same time. I feel like I only get one brake at a time.
Like I said, get the airplane under control and then find the brake slowly. Hey, clean it up. Come to a stop. Yep, let's go.
Yeah. Okay, forward. Here we go.
Okay, maintain runway center line. You had it last time. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. 1, 2, and 3. Full throttle. Here we go. Runway center line on the pedals. Hey, nicely done. The runway handling, you need to be on those pedals.
Okay.
You need to be on the pedals, right?
I thought you were
Just like, I'm massaging you. Just like, massage them pedals.
Okay.
Okay? We started drifting because you neglected your other side. You pushed on the right and you weren't giving it enough left. So the travel is going to be like this.
Okay. A lot more.
Not like this.
Okay.
Like that.
I didn't transition for the slower speed.
Yeah, but everything was good. Takeoff was good. Other than just the runway tracking. Okay? When you get airborne, slowly bring that nose down, build your airspeed, and then climb out at, what are we climbing, 70?
About 70.
Okay, good. Let's do it.
All right.
Back. There you go. Nice, on them pedals. Get us back on that center line. Got it. Get us back on that center line. You got it. Come on. Take your time. You got the whole runway. There you go. Find the brakes when you're able. That is how it's done.
Yeah. Much better.
Woo!
All right, here we go. Oh, the mixture, Rich.
My boy.
That definitely felt better. I just gotta repeat.
Let's do 2 more of those. I want 2 more consecutive, just like that, every time.
Okay. Got the burnt popcorn smell again.
Nice job, Nick. Nice job. So the plan for this is we're going to land, taxi off, and taxi back for another takeoff, okay?
Okay.
Ski 20, clear to land.
Ski 20, clear to land, behind arrow, 88 Zulu.
And pedals, find that center line. Ready, can find the brakes. Alright. Nicely done, buddy. Woo! Alright, let's go. I'm happy with the power there. Let's get off a little quicker.
Okay.
And we'll taxi back.
Fairbanks Tower, 576 Tango, offset, taxi back to 20 left.
Starboard 76 Tango, roger. East ramp 220 left with me.
76 Tango, east ramp, 20 left with you.
And just confirm options.
76 Tango, affirmative.
Copy.
Let's go. Grab the runway, good. Rick, that is how you do it, dude. Oh my God. That's a pilot shit right there. Good for you, man. Doing good?
Yeah, it was fun.
See, you can keep that slip right in the turn. Manage that energy. Keep it right short final. You brought it out nice. Kept the nose up. Power's in. You rolled in a radar glide path. Nice touchdown. You skipped a little bit, but you kept the stick back and you pinned it. You maintained good runway directional control. You found the brakes. We got off right where we wanted. Good radio calls. I'm happy. Just don't get cocky.
Oh, no.
I'm still like,
Not mad. I guess I'm frustrated at how much I'm working to do this. Well, that's good. Because now I know that you're trying. And we'll take an intersection here. That's, we'll take an intersection.
0521, turn left at Romeo and taxi to ProFlight.
We'll take an intersection Bravo if we're comfortable.
Turn left at Romeo, back to ProFlight, remain with you, Aero 521.
Citabria 5176 Tango, Fairbanks, Tower Roger, runway 20 left at Bravo, cliff takeoff for the left closed traffic.
76 Tango, clear 20 left at Bravo for closed traffic. Lights are on? Alright, brother. Alright, what I want to do is I'm going to show you something. My airplane? You have no flight controls. I have the controls.
Ready to go.
Raven Flight 205 Fairbanks, Tower Roger.
I'm going to demonstrate a real takeoff, okay?
In the left closed traffic.
Same as neutral, we set the gear, gas, mixture, canopy, cold, we align with the runway. On the controls with me, okay? Okay, I'm with you. Stick is neutral, we're not holding it, we're not pushing it, stick is neutral, okay? Okay. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Full throttle.
Zulu left.
And you want the tail come up all by itself. Okay, tail starting to come up. There's your runway control. There's our speed. Just slight off pull. And off she climbs. 70 miles an hour to climb.
Charlie with me.
Just like that.
Charlie with you, I need to loop.
That's a real takeoff. And we were on the wheels for until about, it said 70. Yeah, so it's like about 55 or so she wanted to fly. Okay. You were keeping her on the ground. Yeah. Okay. And it's that counterintuitive thing where we don't want to push forward, but we have to, okay? And it's not lightning speed, but it's going to be assertive, okay? Okay. As we're coming down, keeping the power in, and flying it down. Here's my flare. Bring it down to the runway. Looking for the touch. And I'm going to pin it. Power's coming out there. Oh, wow. Runway.
Says 5375 Romeo Fairbanks, Tower, runway 20 left, line up and wait.
Once it touches, it comes back in the left. Okay. I'm going to find the brakes.
Confirm frequent flyer?
I don't know the number.
No problem.
Okay, airplane is yours. Okay.
Clock 0116.
Let's do a real takeoff. Hold. Make sure we're...
Squawk 0116, 75 Romeo.
Okay, slight forward stick push, just slight. There you go, nice. Okay, keeping runway header, runway center line. Tail's coming up. Maintaining directional control. Okay. I came up too soon. Yeah, she came off. We'll do a 3-point landing. 3-point landing to a stop, and we're going to do a real takeoff. And we'll call it good for the day. Okay. Do one more pattern. Yep. Grab with the stick. Nice job getting back on the center line, Nick. Every time I go for the brakes. Yeah, you'll get used to it. Oh, we're looking for a real takeoff. Real takeoff, yep.
This is a 3 Kilo Victor, turn right at Bravo, hold short 20 left.
It's really cold. This is where that's where the hold the stick is right here. Okay. Wait there, hold it right there. That's the normal position, yep. 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hip out, there we go. Okay, so directional control. Tail's going to start coming up. No, keep it coming up. Keep it coming up. There you go. Hold it on, hold it on, hold it on. There you go, and then fly it. Okay. I'm going to stop you at the end, but it felt pretty good. It's awkward. It's like counterintuitive. Did I get to do? feel like it's normal. This is what you do in these. Back in your lap, stick back, there you go.
So just kind of like reiterate what we were talking about earlier. It's wintertime, it's cold, everything is slower. That intercom, oh my gosh. So with it being in the interior, Fairbanks is really the only viable option that we have. It is the only option. Unless we had skis, then we could go to Bradley. But if we went to Bradley, we'd flip the airplane, I think, with those tires.
Yeah, they're only 8 by 6.
I'm sure if we had to, we could get into Bradley, the right person, but there's no sense in really flying at Bradley. There really is not.
It's not a good training environment with that runway.
Okay. So the recap, this is where you get your money.
Okay.
I mean, everybody knows that this is where the learning really takes place, is kind of reviewing what was taught, you know, the whole military Air Force things. We always tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. So today we covered taxiing on the ground, right? Power handling with brakes, rudder, and we did figure eights. We did without breaking the tail wheel detent. We kept the tail wheel engaged in that detent, so it maintained a consistent radius, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had you push on the brake a little firmly to kick it out of that detent, and then at that point it was a free swiveling tail wheel, and it would just go right around. Right?
There's a huge difference pushing forward.
Right.
It really did make a big difference.
Yeah. So one thing that you probably noticed too was when you were taxiing, it would go in a direction you didn't want it to, or you wanted to slow down. So your reaction was cut the power dial.
It was.
So you'd go to turn and you'd like, oh, and you pull the power, and it would like wouldn't do anything, and then you'd have to come up with the power, and you'd cut the power, and you'd come up with the power, and you'd cut the power. So you'll get comfortable with finding that medium, but cutting the power to 0 in a tail wheel, like that's the airflow over the rudder, moving that wheel is what's going to move you.
Okay.
So in the future, next flight, give it a break, rest on it. Next flight we fly tomorrow, man, you jump right back in it, and you'll just hit that sweet spot. You're going to find what power setting works for you. So we did that. Moving forward into the 3-point. You know, we talked about enough in the airplane, but just to kind of recap here is your rudder inputs are very modular. Like I said earlier, you know, if I had a yardstick here in my palm and I was doing this, you know, by the time I got here to correct, it would have already fallen off.
It's too late.
Right. So correlate, and I was trying to correlate a massage, you know, with those rudder pedals. And essentially, you're just, I guess, if you want to get weird and think of it like you're massaging the airplane. Yeah, you know, you don't get a massage. You know, someone doesn't go in
Jerky.
this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice and smooth. Just keep putting it just like this. Because what, like I was saying, is you're staying ahead of the airplane by putting an input in and taking it out, seeing what it's doing, right? So by putting several little inputs in, you can kind of analyze what's going on, right? And then, so if you're doing this and it still goes in that direction, do just a little bit more on that side, right? Do a little bit less here, but more here, less here, more here. And if it starts to reverse that trend, now I can go back to normal.
I think part of it was I was overthinking when it's going to slow down and I'm going to have to move it more.
Yeah.
That's what I think was going on.
Yeah, and then you're also compartmentalizing your thinking, right?
Yep.
So you start thinking about
I'm
the feet,
concentrating on the
you
pedals.
forget about
Yep.
here, right? And so yeah, it's all about becoming more comfortable, right? Getting proficiency, getting the whole stick and rudder feel down. So yeah, moving forward, I think this continue to build on top of one another in the previous flight and the previous. We'll find good results. But from when we started today to where we ended, I found remarkable improvement. Except that rudder stuff is just going to be the biggest focus. The landings were good. I got to give you a good accolade for initiating a go around when I didn't have to say anything. Right?
Yeah,
So most people just accept it. Most people just accept that I flare high. It's going to be a hard landing, and Now you're like, no, I'm going around. And you went around. It's great. Right? You executed that. Good power and cleaned the airplane up to carb heat. And we went around. So kudos to you. Continue to do that in the future. See, 3 points, takeoff and landings. Did that exercise keeping you on the center line did that kind of help?
It did. It made a huge difference. So I had to, and like I said, it's only theory, but I am afraid of the ground loop. This has been talked about so much
Yeah.
that I'm like, there's plenty of runway. I'll just stay over here and go straight, and then eventually get back after I slow down. I think that's what was going on.
I can see that. Maybe just kind of accepting, like, well, I'm on this side of the runway. I already have another 100 feet to go, and even that big runway.
But we turned. I guess we turned a lot more than I really thought we could, if that makes sense. And I did it after you told me what to do. So I don't know. I guess I had this really tight mindset, and there's more between those wheels than I think I was thinking. This was it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to get outside of that. And then we went here and here and here and pushed it out. So I'm like, okay, maybe.
Are you talking about when we were doing the takeoffs?
Yeah, well, when we were doing the landings more than anything, so
Mhm.
I'd come over and I'm like, well, yeah, I want to get back to center line too, but it's not an emergency for me. So
you're just accepting what you're having. You're prioritizing your thing. You're prioritizing keeping control of the airplane. You're like, okay, I can accept staying over here. And I'm still working on it. And yeah, that makes sense.
I'm a crappy tailwheel pilot still, so we'll get there. But I do want to get back over there, so it definitely wasn't an ignoring type of situation.
Yeah, no worries. Those rudders and like you said earlier, we all fear at one point starting off, we all fear the ground loop because it's talked so much.
It is nonstop.
It's rumored, it's not just rumored, but it's like that's the prophecy, or that's not the prophecy. It's I don't know. It's like Mordor. Like, you don't go there. Right? So that's why we're gonna. I allow you today when you got on the runway and start having that porpoising, and it started kind of developing top, and you're like, ooh, I can see you doing the whole on the rudder stuff, and I want you to see how uncomfortable it is to get that far, and then if you go just a little bit beyond that, I'd be like, well, remember that one feeling at one time? If you kept going a little bit further, it would have just gone away. But so knowing where the edge of the envelope is going to help.
Well, I'm kind of glad that I'm landing on this because from what I've learned, that's the hardest. Is when you've got smaller wheels, smaller tires, and you've got the dry pavement.
Yes.
That bites in.
There's less shock absorbing in the smaller tires. There's less surface area, like bush wheels or 29s or 850s. They're just wider, a little more rubber to absorb the shock. But yeah, you're getting it all in that 800 tire. So
pay out.
yeah, it's
That's
easy to
work
go
out.
from pavement to gravel.
Yeah.
But from somebody that's only seen gravel to pavement, it's a recipe for disaster.
Wow.
Focus on driving it in, under control, a little bit of power. As you start that flare, bringing it into the horizon, you're getting about 5-10 feet above the runway. Start slowly transition that power back. Just keep that nose right on the horizon, and then just keep it off, keep it off, keep it off. And then sitting in the airplane on the ground, that's the sight picture of what you want to see when you're landing.
Okay.
That same sight picture sitting in the airplane with the nose up here, that's what you want to see. Not like this, not like that, but same sight picture with the nose cowling, just slightly protruding the runway, right?
Okay.
That's going to be your, yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so. I had a blast. I learned a lot. Yeah, it was fun.
It's always fun seeing somebody be humbled by a new learning experience.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
It is, yeah. I'm glad.
And I was supposed to be perfect the first time, so
we all.
yeah. I've already messed that up. So
well, I'm glad to see you guys are doing this because, I would say with the advent of social media and more people getting into tailwheel, I feel like tailwheel is growing, but there was certainly a point where tailwheel was a dying breed.
Hoping to get trained up in this thing and take Bean out and go do stuff. She doesn't know if she wants to learn to fly, but she wants to go on trips. So
it'd be cool.
Put the skateboards in the back and go somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I'm at Scoop.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, man.
If you have any questions or if you want any other tips about what to look at or stuff, but as far as like homework and stuff, just
keep doing those notes.
There's only so much reading you can do on it. It's not an instrument rating, but looking at FAA Flying Handbook, and if you feel like you got a pretty good control on it, for something that's kind of vague, or kind of murky, go back in that book and look.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
And if you're available tomorrow, I would be happy to go fly. Okay.
Let's fly tomorrow.
Okay, awesome.
What
I'm gonna
time?
check with Eric because he has not flown yet because he was congested and he was waiting. But if he wants to fly tomorrow, I've already gone twice. So
Yeah, let's bring up the intercom stuff.
I will. I'm gonna talk to him on the way home tonight.
Okay, so I mean, you know, it's not. If it was your airplane, you could probably get years of that intercom. But as far as from a training standpoint, it's
Well, and all three of us have to train. So all three of us have to fly with an instructor for.
so it might be a behoove you to put a better intercom in.
We definitely would be less frustrating, and I don't know. Eric and me are sharp, but maybe it'll bother them more. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
All right.
thanks, dude.
See you around.
I'll make sure you know when Matt is here since he didn't tell you.
What's that?
I'll make sure you know when Matt is here since he didn't tell you.
Matt?
Addison? Matt?
Oh yeah. All right.